Breaking news. A trusted priest has begun an extraordinary journey carrying sacred vessels used in the sanctuary, worth the equivalent of more than 311 million pounds.
We're coming to you live outside the royal palace, where history has just been made. Moments ago, Ezra the priest emerged, carrying the king's official decree. He has been entrusted with an immense fortune in sacred gold, silver, and temple vessels, but with no royal guard or escort. Will faith prove stronger than fear as his journey begins?
This is the story of one of the greatest journeys ever recorded in scripture, and the stakes were far greater than anyone realized. Before we begin the journey, let's understand what Ezra was carrying. The Bible tells us he carried 650 talents of silver. A talent weighed about 3.4 kilograms. Let's do the math. A talent is worth 3.4 kilograms. So 650 talents by 3.4 kilograms. That means Ezra was carrying more than 22 tons of silver. In today's value, that silver alone would be worth nearly 19 million pounds. He also carried around another 100 talents of silver vessels. That's another 3 million. Then came the gold. 100 talents of gold. A single talent of gold today would be worth 3 million. 100 talents of gold. That's almost 290 million pounds. Then there were 1,000 Persian derricks, not a person, Persian coin containing roughly 8.4 grams of gold. Together, that's worth 700,000 pounds. And even together, and Ezra was responsible for more than 311 million pounds worth of treasure, enough to attract thieves from every corner of the empire, enough to tempt entire armies, enough to make international headlines if it happened today. Yet there was no military escort, but the treasure was not the most valuable thing Ezra carried. Hidden among the gold and silver was something far more precious, a document issued by the Persian king authorizing the restoration of Jerusalem. To most people it looked like a legal document. To heaven it was much more, because this decree was connected to one of the greatest prophecies in the Bible. Nearly a century earlier, the prophet Daniel had received a vision. He was told that from the commandment to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, a prophetic countdown would begin. The 70-week prophecy, 490 prophetic years, a divine timetable pointing directly to the coming Messiah. For centuries, humanity had waited. Adam waited, Abraham waited, Moses waited, David waited, Isaiah waited. Generation after generation looked forward to the promised deliverer. And now the decree connected to that prophecy was crossing the desert in Ezra's caravan. Suddenly, this journey becomes much bigger than treasure. This journey was carrying history itself. The journey stretched nearly 900 miles, across scorching deserts, through valleys, across rivers, past mountain passes where bandits often waited. Caravans carrying wealth were prime targets, and Ezra's caravan carried enough wealth to fund kingdoms. One successful ambush could have changed everything. The danger was real, the risk was enormous, the road ahead was uncertain. Ezra faced a difficult decision. The king could provide soldiers, the king could provide horsemen, the king could provide military protection, but Ezra had already testified, the hand of our God was upon all them that seek him. Now his faith would be tested. Would he trust military strength or would he trust God? Ezra chose to trust God. Before beginning the journey, he gathered the people together, not for combat training, not for military preparation, not for strategic planning, but for prayer, fasting, and dependence upon God. Families humbled themselves before the Lord. Children prayed, parents prayed, priests prayed. The entire company committed themselves to God's protection, and heaven had. Then the journey began. Day after day, week after week, mile after mile, the caravan moved through dangerous territory, carrying more than 311 million pounds worth of treasure. But there was something much more precious than the treasure. They were carrying the decree connected to Daniel's prophecy, the decree that would start the countdown to the Messiah. Think about what was at stake. If the treasure was stolen, the temple work would suffer. But if the decree failed to reach Jerusalem, the prophetic restoration of the city would be affected. The enemies of God were not merely threatening gold and silver. The decree they carried was connected to the greatest event the world would ever witness, the arrival of Jesus Christ. Yet, throughout the entire journey, there was no successful ambush, no stolen treasure, no missing vessel, no lost decree, and no enemy victory. This was no luck. This was not chance. This was divine protection beyond belief. God was not merely protecting treasure. He was protecting His prophecy. He was preserving the roadmap that would reveal His Son to the world. Months later, they finally arrived in Jerusalem, and Ezra did something remarkable. The treasure was weighed again. The gold, the silver, the vessels, everything, every coin accounted for, every vessel accounted for, every ounce accounted for. Nothing was missing. Then the God who protected them on the road and preserved everything perfectly. The prophetic clock continued ticking. Empires rose and fell. Kings came and went. Generations lived and died, but God's timetable never failed. Exactly as Daniel predicted, Jesus Christ appeared. The Messiah arrived precisely on schedule, not early, not late, exactly on time. The city was restored, the prophetic countdown had begun, and God's promise was fulfilled. The most amazing part of Ezra's journey was not the gold, not the silver, not even the 300 million pounds worth of treasure. The most amazing part was that God was guiding history. To the world it looked like a caravan crossing a desert, but to heaven it was the unfolding. Hidden within that journey was the countdown to Bethlehem, the countdown to Calvary, and the countdown to the Messiah. And the same God who guided Ezra's journey is still guiding us today. Nothing can stop His promises. Nothing can delay His purposes. Nothing can overturn His word. Because when God declares something, heaven and earth move to bring it to pass. The God who protected the treasure, the God who protected the decree, and the God who protected the prophecy is the same God who keeps His promises to you. And just as Christ's first coming happened exactly on time, His second will happen exactly on time. And just as Christ's first coming happened exactly on time, because when God starts the clock, He always finishes on time. And as always, God bless you.